Hello everyone, how are you today? It's Kay. So this is the 26th of September on Sunday. So I hope you're having a great weekend today. So today I will cover the pairs, 21 pairs on my watch list, and also commodities in terms of gold, and also WTI, crude oil, and then I will cover the indices, Asia and Europe and US indices. And finally, I will cover the news for next week. So let's get started right now. So for those who are new to my channel, my name is Kei, and I am a Japanese full-time Forex trader. And in my YouTube channel, I talk about the markets by Ichimoku Kinko Hyo, and I do so in multiple time frames. And I explain how to capture the trending markets and how to capture also reversal markets or range markets. And the ultimate goal for this YouTube channel is to help you become a non-losing trader. So hopefully you master the strategies and continue your trading journey. So let me squeeze my face and start the session. So before starting here, just a quick disclaimer as always. This content is only for educational purpose. So if you wish to trade, please do it at your own risk. And also, since this is live stream, if you can follow the rules and guidelines, that would be great. Because after all, we're all here to learn. Okay, so let's see. Who's here first? Let me say hi to everyone quickly and get into the topic. So let's see. Hello, Kel. Good to see you. And Virgilio, good to see you too. And Saman, Gampat, and Ricky, thank you for joining. Great to see you. And Blackwater, thank you for joining on this Ichimoku community here. So once you join the Ichimoku community, please come to my website and come to services, and also come to Ichimoku community here. And when you launch the page, you see all the details about what you can expect from my community. And if you scroll down, you can find the button here. Click here to join Ichimoku Discord. Make sure you click on this one, and you see pop-up to join Discord. Sorry, this is actually Discord, so let me just squeeze. But you press simply accept invite. Simply you click accept invite and you'll be actually in the community. So yeah, I will be waiting for you in the community. So yeah, let's see. But once again, thank you for joining, and I wish you a great journey in Ichimoku continuously. All right, so let's see. And let's see. Hello, Gabby. Good to see you too. Thank you for joining. And oh, Rod says, I have just recovered from COVID, so I'm thankful. Oh, Rolls, welcome back. I hope yourself and family are all safe and healthy now. Yeah, looks like COVID are still around, and yeah, some of my friends are actually in COVID, and so still we can't really be optimistic a bit about it. Still undergoing. So yeah, please make sure that everybody is safe and healthy here in the community. But yeah, welcome back, Rose. So I think it's time to learn also again. All right, and Faiz, Suresh, good to see you, Anthony. Thank you for joining. And Brian, Lawrence, Orvin, Alex. All right, Rajko, Well, and Nguyen, Andrew, FX, Akbar, Min, and Zach, Jai, Levinas. Thank you for joining, everyone. So let's get into the topic right now. So here is the trading view, and every weekend and new week I watch the weekly chart because that's when the weekly candle closed. And during the week I look at the daily chart or the lower time frames to capture trends and look for an entry chance. But since this is weekend, let's focus on the weekly to get the bigger picture on the market overall. So let's start from the euro dollar. The euro dollar is right now exactly in the Kumo. So the market is in the range in terms of Ichimoku. And Kumo is flat, Kijun Sen flat, Chikou span touching. So this is continuously range. So next week, we can't tell which way it goes. So in this condition, I would wait for the Kumo breakout. Or before that, there might be a support line breakout. So the support is here at 1.1659. And just wait for the support line breakout. And afterwards, Kumo breakout might happen. And when you see the support line breakout, and you will see for sure the daily chart will be downtrending, and you can actually look for the opportunity afterwards. So last week was doji, and there is no direction at the moment. So let's move on to Euro AUD. So Euro AUD is still heading towards the Kumo now, and it looks like this is bullish in this weekly chart. The market has been in the P wave, but it's about to break upwards in my opinion, simply because Tenkan Sen is above the Kijun Sen. And once it does, Kumo breakout most likely happen, and that will be what we call Sanyaku Koten signal in Japanese. And the market may turn bullish afterwards. So next week, we can just wait for the P wave breakout or the previous doji candlestick breakout, and then Kumo breakout, which may happen also next week or next week. So we'll see on that one. So let's continue here. So next one is Euro Pound. So Euro Pound has been still bearish because the price itself is below the Kijun Sen and the Kumo. And you can see that the Kumo Senko span A is pointing downwards. So next week could be bearish. You see the market has been resisted by this Kijun Sen for the last couple of weeks. So it might be bearish next week. And also Chikou span touching, so technically it's range. But I can see that there are more sellers than buyers because the lows are at the same level or the slightly lower, and the highs are lower too. So this chart pattern shows there are more sellers than buyers, and expect gradually the market continue to go down. So next week at some point we might see bearish, and we can confirm that in the lower time frames and enter sell. And however, if the market goes bullish next week and breaks the Kijun Sen, then you don't trade, because this is retracement back to the Kumo, but that will be the range market afterward. So let's continue. The next one is Euro JPY. Euro JPY weekly, the Kumo flat, and also Kijun Sen is flat too. Chikou span has been overlapping, and this is where you can focus on the Chikou span, because you see the Chikou span has been tracing the previous candles exactly. So what happens next week is, since from Chikou span viewpoint, next week is going to be bullish, and if it traces in the actual market, it will be bullish also. So I expect next week is going to be bullish, and market might retrace back to the Kijun Sen. So we may see uptrend next week on this particular pair. And as long as it traces, you can follow a trend direction, is my opinion. But once you see Chikou span breakout at some point, then the market will go into the Kumo, and you don't trade at that time because that will be the range market. So in that sense, next week might be bullish from this weekly analysis. So we might see that in the lower time. So the next one, EuroCAD. All right, EuroCAD has been ranging in this one. It's range, and we don't know which way it's going technically, simply because the Kumo flat, Senko span B flat, A flat, and Kijun Sen, Tenkan Sen flat right now. And Chikou span has been touching the candles, and I would say that this is not the trace. But if next week turns out to be bullish, then I would say Chikou span trace is active. So next week also could be bullish too. But next week, once the Chikou span breakout happens downwards, then the market may continuously down. So and at this moment we can't tell which way it's going. So basically we better wait for the downtrend confirmations. But in terms of downtrend, for example, in the daily chart it is down. Sorry, not in the daily chart. In the forward chart, it's bearish. You see the Kumo down, Kijun Sen down, and the market has been on the reversed N wave. So next Wednesday, Tuesday could be continuously bearish in the forward chart. So we'll see which way it goes. But if next week turns out to be bullish, then the market most likely will retrace back to the weekly Kijun Sen, as we just saw earlier. If the market reverses backwards, then if the market reverses backwards, then the market will break the Kijun Sen uppers, and it might retrace back to the Kumo, and Chikou span may trace backwards. So we'll see which way happens next week. So let's move on to the next one, Euro Swiss franc. Alright, Euro Swiss franc weekly chart is exactly in the Kumo now. Last week was bearish, but last week was bullish, and these are all in the Kumo. So this is range. I would say that this is pure range, and we can't tell which way it's going next week. And in this particular case, even if you see the Kumo breakout, it might be fake and retrace backwards simply because the Kumo flat itself and also Kijun Sen flat. So don't trust this Kumo breakout in this particular situation where Kumo is flat right now. So let's move on to the next one, dollar JPY. Dollar JPY last week was bullish, and on the weekly chart, the momentum is bullish because the price is locating above the Tenkan Sen, Kijun Sen, and Kumo. However, one thing that is interesting is the Chikou span. Because if you see Chikou span, it's about to break. Technically, this is not a breakout, but it is about to break. So once it breaks, I expect the market will go up next week. That will also be the resistance line breakout. You see daily resistance line here, and it may break upwards next week. But if it will be resisted, then it might turn bearish, which is going to be a Chikou span trace also. And next week could be bearish downwards this way. So yeah, we'll see which way it goes in that sense too. So yeah, so that will be the dollar JPY. And the next one is USD CAD. Dollar CAD, it's in a range also. This is in a pure range because you see not only the Kumo flat, Tenkan span B flat, A flat, the angles are flat, and also Kijun Sen completely flat, and Tenkan Sen completely flat too. And Chikou span is touching, but you can see that it's not really tracing the previous candles. It's on the previous candles, but it's not really tracing. So in this situation, we don't trade. We simply stay away from this market. All right, so the next one is dollar Swiss franc. This one is also ranging, and it's been ranging for last week. And Kumo flat, Kijun Sen flat, Tenkan Sen flat too. And Chikou span has been tracing the previous candles, but you see that last week was bearish, and Chikou span is coming below the candles. And but since the market is about to break the Kumo, it may be bullish afterwards. But better wait for the resistance line breakout. Resistance level is at 0.9473. We better wait for the breakout of the resistance and look for buy. Otherwise, it may be continuously range. So moving on to pound pairs. Pound dollar, weekly chart, it's getting bearish now and going into the Kumo. And it's about to break the support at 1.3607. So let's just wait for the support line breakout and look for an opportunity to sell. In this case, we already saw that there was a Tenkan Kijun dead cross. This means that this is the end of the uptrend. And also, Chikou span breakout is about to happen. Technically, in this case, the Chikou span is with the previous candles. But next week, it may take off. And it may also break the resistance, the support level. Once the market breaks the support level, then we might see downtrend in the lower time frames. So let's just wait for that next week. Next one is pound yen. This is in the range also. You see that the Kumo is technically flat because you can see that the Senko span B is up, but Senko span A is flat. I would say Senko span A angle is technically up, but you see that the Senko span A hasn't been broken the previous Senko span A level upwards yet. See that this is still within the previous Senko span A high. So I would say that this Kumo is flat and this Senko span B angle is a bit fakey. So, and with that in mind, if you look at the chart, it's been ranging right now. Couple of doji candles, but I can see the strong supports in this area. So, and last week was pin bar, and this was a very tricky market. So I would say I would avoid taking trades. There is no direction and no trades in this case. But one thing is, once again, Chikou span tracing the previous candles. So next week, from the Chikou span viewpoint, it's going to be bearish. So in that sense, next week could be bearish. So we might see downtrend in the lower time frames, but we will see which way it goes. And the next one is pound AUD. Pound AUD is about to break the Kumo upwards now with the right order. So right order meaning that there was a Tenkan-sen, Kijun-sen gold cross first, and then Chikou span breakout next, and Kumo breakout. This is the right order of Sanyaku Koten signal. So next week, most likely it will break unless there will be a very, strong downtrend. Most likely it's going to break the Kumo, and from next week or next week, it might turn to be bullish. And this Kumo breakout is very significant because not only that it's right order, but also the market broke the very thick part of the Kumo. So once the market breaks the thick part of the Kumo like this, then it tends to go up towards that direction. So next week could be bullish, in my opinion, in this market situation. So next one is pound CAD. Pound CAD last week was a huge bearish candle. It was bearish, but overall is still within the range. The Kumo is too thin, too tiny to be trustable, and Kijun-sen flat. But Chikou span has been kind of tracing the previous candles, you see, and the next week candle is bearish. So in that sense, next week also could be bearish, and we might see the downtrend in the lower time frame. The next pair is pound Swiss franc. This one is also range, and you can't trust this Senko span B angle simply once again because Senko span A is flat overall. So this Senko span B might be a bit fakey angle up. So next week could be range. And Chikou span is not really tracing the previous candles. So and Kijun-sen flat. So this is range, and we don't trade. All right, so let's move on to the AUD pairs. So first one is AUD USD. It's heading towards the Kumo breakout now. We already saw that there was a Tenkan-sen, Kijun-sen dead cross and a Chikou span breakout. So next week could be the Kumo breakout, and once it does, it continues to go down this way. And also in this example too, the market has been breaking the Kumo, or it's very thick. So once it breaks, it tends to go down towards that direction. So we will see if it happens next week in this market, AUD USD. And the next one is AUD CAD. So AUD CAD, it just broke the Kumo downwards after Tenkan Kijun Sen dead cross and Chikou span breakout. And also market broke the thick part of the Kumo. So I expect next week will be bearish. And in fact, in the lower time frame, it is bearish. So let me turn to the forward chart. So here's the forward chart. And you see the Kumo has been downtrending. And also Kijun Sen down. Tenkan Sen down too. And the Chikou span below the candles. And the market broke the previous support. And I expect the market continuously go down next week. So in terms of weekly, it just broke the Kumo downwards. And also in this forward chart also, it broke the Kumo downwards. I mean, in the forward chart, it broke the support. And also all the lines are downtrending. So I expect the market will continue to go down next week. So you can watch this one, AUD CAD, next Monday and see what happens. So let's move on to the next one, AUD JPY. All right, AUD JPY, switching to the weekly chart, this is range because Kumo flat, Kijun Sen flat, market is within the Kumo now, and Chikou span is not tracing really. So it's a pure range. And this is, we better simply avoid taking trades or just simply follow the lower time frame trends. Right, moving on to AUD Swiss franc. So AUD Swiss franc weekly chart is about to break the Kumo also. So we might see lots of Kumo breakouts next week. So it's very close. And Kumo is not really thick, but this is okay thickness. So once it breaks, the market tends to go down this way. So let's watch the Kumo breakout on AUD Swiss franc also next week. So let's move on to CAD pairs. So CAD JPY, this is flat right now. The Kumo flat, Kijun Sen flat, Chikou span is touching with the previous candles. Last week was bullish, but overall range. So I think it's going to be a bit tricky market. So we better stay away. But or simply wait for the neckline breakout. Neckline breakout of the head and shoulders. And then look for the sell chance. Or breakout and look for sell. Otherwise, it might be range continuously. Yeah, so let's move on to the next one, CAD Swiss franc. So CAD Swiss franc has been completely range, and I wasn't really taking any trades on this one. Last week, Kumo flat, Kijun Sen flat, Chikou span is below the candles, but this is range. So no trend and no trace. Right? Last week was pin bar, and this was a very tricky market. So we better avoid taking trades on this one. So finally, let's cover the Swiss franc JPY. Alright, Swiss franc JPY is range. The Kumo flat, Kijun Sen is also flat. Chikou span bounced by the previous candle, but this is still too close to be trustable, and we can't tell which way it's going. Last week was bullish, so if it's continuous, we see uptrend on the daily chart or lower time frames. but it may reverse backwards anytime soon. So we better focus on other more trending markets in higher time frames. So that covers the whole pairs on my watch list. So now let's move on to gold, XAU-USD. So here's XAU-USD, and in a weekly chart basis, this is range. Once again, Kumo flat, Kijun Sen flat. Chikou span is too close to the candles, it's range. Last week was almost doji candle, and there was no direction. But if you look at the daily chart here, it's about to break this support level. And the support level is at around 1741.29. And once it breaks, I expect the market will go down this way. So the market once broke the head and shoulders in the daily chart. The neckline was at 1780.09. The market once broke the neckline and resisted again, and now looks like it's bearish. So I expect the market will turn bearish next week, but I will wait for the support line breakout and look for the sell. And the target is going to be below here. 1673.6 will be the target if you sell here. But we'll see. We have to keep watching the news worldwide, especially China, what's happening in China, and also US economy. We have to be careful because it may impact the gold anytime. All right, so let's move on to the WTI crude oil. Starting from the weekly chart, this is bullish right now. But the Kumo flat, Kijun Sen flat. Kijun Sen is up, but since Kumo's flat, we can't trust this up Kijun Sen. But Chikou span is above the candles, and also price itself is above Tenkan Sen, Kijun Sen, Kumo. So in that sense, momentum is bullish. But the market is at the resistance level at 74.25. So we better wait for the resistance line breakout and reach to the all-time high, which is 76.96. So let's move on to the index. Starting from the Nikkei index, this is a bit range still because the market is still, the Kumo's up, Kumo's flat, Kijun Sen flat. So this is a bit retracing, ranging, but the momentum is uptrend still. The momentum is up, so it can break the resistance level. So we will see if it happens next week or not. But if not, I expect the market retraces back to the Kijun Sen. So let's see which way it goes next week. But let's move on to the US indices. So I will give you some detailed analysis on the lower time frame next week. But on this weekly forecast, let me focus on the weekly chart to capture overall situation. And what you can find here is very interesting because you see the Kumo's up, and also you see Kijun Sen bounce. And not only the Kijun Sen bounce, but also the Kijun Sen angle is bullish. That means this Kijun Sen bounce can be trustable, and I expect the next week will be bullish. Tenkan span A is also bullish, and Chikou span above the candles too. So I can still see the bullishness in the market. That's Dow Jones. And let's see, Nasdaq. Nasdaq on the weekly is still bullish also because Kumo up, Tenkan span B is up, and A is up. Kijun Sen is still up. And also you see Tenkan Sen bounce here last week with the pin bar and a Chikou span above the candles. So this is bullish, and I also expect next week will be bullish on this particular index. So let's move on to the next one. Is S&P. Yeah, S&P is also bullish in terms of weekly time frame because once again Kumo's up, Kijun-sen is pointing upwards, and Tenkan-sen is also pointing upwards, and it looks like market is supported by the Tenkan-sen last week, and a Chikou span above the candles. So although we saw some retracement for the last couple of weeks, I do see that this is still bullish markets on the US indices. So I expect still the market goes up continuously. So let's move on to Euro stocks. Yeah, Euro stocks also was supported by the Kijun-sen, and the Kijun-sen itself is not flat. This is up Kijun-sen. So, and Kumo's up also, Chikou span above the candles. So next week could be bullish, in my opinion. So lots of potential bullishness next week. Let's move on to FTSE 100. FTSE 100 is a bit ranging, but the market is touching the Kijun-sen, and the Kijun-sen angle is also bullish. And last week ended with the bullish candle, and also there was an outside bar. This is outside, so I expect the market will break the outside resistance level and continue to go up next week. But if it continues to be range or retraces backwards, then you might see the Chikou span touch the previous candles, and that will be the range. So you can't expect the market go up anymore. So let's see which way it goes next week. We have to be precise in this kind of situation for the Chikou span viewpoint. Right, and let's move on to CAC France. Yeah, CAC France also the similar case. The market bounced by the Kijun-sen, and there is a potential bullish market next week. Kumo is up also, and Chikou span above the candles. So this is bullishness right now. Right, and let's move on to the DAX index. Similar case, right? You see the Kijun-sen bounce here last week, and Kumo's up, and Chikou span above the candles. So I do see that this is a potential bullishness next week also to turn bullish. So yeah, lots of potential bullishness for Ichimoku on the weekly chart. And in terms of Nifty, no doubt this has been bullish, and I don't see any sign of retracement right now. So I expect the market will continuously be bullish. Kumo has been bullish nicely, and Kijun-sen Tenkan-sen has been nicely bullish too. Chikou span way above the candles, and it shows a strong and stable bullishness. And the next one is AU200. Also, the market bounced by the weekly Kijun-sen, and last week was doji, and I can see that there is a strong support here, and it may bounce, and next week might turn bullish. Usually when the market sees this pin bar or the doji candle at the pushback, next week could be bullish. So we'll see that one too. And in terms of Hansen, it's bearish, broke the previous support level because of this type of negative news in China last week. The market has been bearish, and it's dropping down to the previous support level, previous support at 23081 level. So it may continuously go down. So yeah, we will see which way it goes. All right, so that covers the whole indices for next week on the weekly chart basis. So finally, let's cover the news for next week. We always have to pay attention to news because news can impact the market on anyways. So before you take trades, always make sure to watch news. So let me squeeze my window a little bit so that you can see the whole news columns. All right. So, and let me select next week. So next week is the last week of the September. So time flies. And you have to be careful for the option cut. It might impact the market also. So next week starts from 27th, and the end is going to be October 1st. So let me do this and click apply. And I get next week's calendar here. So Monday 27th, we have US durable goods orders and non-defense capital. So it can impact the market. And moving on to Tuesday, September 28th, technically in the morning Asian time, there will be policy meeting in Japan. So JPY could be affected on Tuesday morning. And also retail sales in AUD. Be careful. And moving on to Wednesday 29th, we have no news. And Thursday 30th, we have China news. And also we have a GDP report in UK, a pound, if be careful. And towards the end of the day, CPI, Consumer Price Index in Euro. So your pairs could be affected by this. And also another CPI in Germany. So Euro also could be affected by this news. And towards the late of the day, there will be a GDP report, gross domestic product, annualized, will be there in the US. So USD could be affected by this one. And let's see. And technically on Friday, October 1st, there will be a news in Japan. So Tankan Large Manufacturing Index. So Tankan means like the market overview or the market like forecast. So there will be a report index in Japan, and it might affect the JPY. Excuse me. And Friday, October 1st, we have another retail sales in Germany, and Euro can be affected by this. And in the end, there will be a US ISM manufacturing PMI. So USD can be affected by this. So next week we have a couple of news, important news. So before you take trades, always watch news, check news, so that you don't lose big when these news comes out, really. Yeah. All right, so that covers the whole news topics. So let's move. Let's see. Let's continue to discuss on the markets. Let me go back to charts and let me check some other charts. So let's see. All right. Oh, let me check Bitcoin, because there was a big news for the cryptocurrencies in China. So and I know there are crypto traders here in the community. So let me talk about the Bitcoin quickly. So Bitcoin on the weekly chart, this is flat ranging because the Kumo's technically Kumo's up. But if you see overall Kumo structure, the Senko Span A hasn't broken the previous Senko Span A level yet, so it's range. The Kumo is flat in my eye. And also Kijun Sen flat and Tenkan Sen below the Kijun Sen, and Chikou Span too close with the previous candles, and this is range. Yeah, it's range. And also the market is a bit ranging right now. And with that in mind, I look at the daily chart. Yeah, so the daily chart right now, there was a neckline breakout of this head and shoulders. There was a neckline breakout at 42885 level, and it's ranging. So, and since the daily chart also the price is within the Kumo now, so we can't tell which way it's going. And yeah, as objective and diligent says what's happening in Evergrande in China, the cryptocurrencies might be sold a bit more, and I expect, in my view, this is a bit bearish because I do see the consecutive bearish N waves. So next week, in price action wise, it's bearish. I don't see any sign of bullishness as per price action in this case. But yeah, it's just my view. I'm not really sure about what's happening about the cryptos in details so much. I don't really follow the news in details. So this is just my view about Ichimoku and price action. But so for example, if this were the Forex pair, I expect the market will break the Kumo downwards. But since this is crypto, any news can be affected, so we'll see which way it goes. Alright, so let's see. Yep, thank you for joining everyone. Great to see you once again. If you liked it, please press the like button before you leave. That would be great. Okay, so let's see. Alright, good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Horton, yes, I've covered the oil. And oil has been a bit bullish right now. Let me cover it again. I know there are new joiners here, so yeah, so daily chart oil is up right now. The market is bullish on N wave. And it is at the resistance level. But since the market is at the resistance level, 74.25, and also Kumo's flat, when you see Senko span B down, Senko span A is up, this is flat Kumo. So the market might be resisted, and next week, Monday, Tuesday, might be bearish. And it might retrace back to the Tenkan Sen, and it may bounce and goes up, or breaks. So, but I do see a potential retracement right now, so I won't look for buy in this condition. Wait for the pushback to buy, or simply, wait for the breakout and buy afterwards is my advice. Right, so yeah, but in terms of Forex, I don't see any trends on the daily chart. So it's been a very tricky market. Yeah, very tricky. And there's no like huge pips in markets. Like every time the market, like a news release, the market tends to reverse backwards. So, and it's been a pattern for the last about 3 months or so. Now, Forex, there has been no stable trends for daily chart Ichimoku, but we do see some opportunities on lower time frames. You can always follow the 4-hour chart or 1-hour chart, lower time frames, and capture trends and take trades. With the risk management, that should be fine. Okay, so yeah, so that covers the whole topics, Forex pairs, and gold and oil, and indices, and also for next week. So I will be ending the live stream in about a couple minutes here. But yeah, I hope you have a great weekend, and please rest well and get ready to take trades next week. Technically, we have 4 more days until the end of September, so we might see some new trends next week. So we'll see, because recently we do see big trends, big waves towards the later part of the month in the Forex. So in this pattern, most likely on the first part of the October, we don't see any trends again. And towards the later part in October, the market starts to be active. So yeah, but next week is still September, last week of September, so we might see some new trends. So always get ready to take trades. Always make sure to screen chart at least once per day, and so that you can catch up on these changing markets, and hopefully you capture some nice pip next week also. So yeah, once again, thank you for joining, and I will see you on the next one. Right, so please stay healthy, stay safe, and stay gold. Right, bye for now. Mata ne. Thank you.